People's Choice Credit Union. I have Cheyenne, our other mortgage lender, here today, and our special guest, Kelly Kleist from Century 21. Kelly today is going to be going over her little buyer tool that she gives first-time home buyers, actually any buyer, I believe.
Yep.
And we're going to be Cheyenne and I will interject as to why you as a home buyer need to be bringing documentation to us. So, Kelly, I'll let you lead off, and then Cheyenne and I will kind of fill in where needed.
Sure. So at Century 21, we decided just recently to focus pretty heavily on the buyer experience because they actually spend a lot of time jumping through hoops trying to make sure that everything happens. The seller goes just a little bit more along for the ride. Right, so when we got together a couple of weeks ago and we did a lunch and learn for all of the lenders, we introduced them to our buyer binder, and everybody felt like this was a really nice, handy tool. So anybody who works with us at Century 21 will receive their buyer binder after their free buyer consultation. We go over the process, we discuss everything that we do, and then we go over the things that they're going to need to do in order to get financing.
Correct.
So when you open the buyer binder, it's actually a pretty simple process, not rocket science, when you have a list of all of the things that a lender is going to want from you. And then inside of that, we've actually just given you folders where you can gather all of that information. The underwriting process is interesting. So unfortunately, as much as John and Cheyenne try to gather everything that they're supposed to have right away from the very beginning, undoubtedly people will continue to call you and ask for more information. As you're moving and packing and putting everything in boxes, really hard to find that information when you need it. So what we've done is we've kind of created this binder so you can gather it all, put it together, and have it at your fingertips whenever somebody calls. So when I teach, which I really like to do, so when I teach, what I try to do is always explain the whys. So one of the things that we're going to do now, and I'm really excited about this, is I'm going to kind of go through what each one of these tabs says, and then they're going to give you the whys. So the first thing that you're going to have to gather is 2 years worth of W-2s and tax returns.
Correct. Cheyenne, why don't you?
So the biggest thing with the W-2s and the tax returns is they're going to need a 2-year average. They're going to want to make sure that your income is either staying the same or going up and not decreasing. So that's where by getting the last 2 years of W-2s and taxes, we can make sure that income is right there.
Correct. And by they, you usually mean?
The underwriter.
Yes, correct.
All right, so then, of course, you should be employed. So probably the 2 most recent pay stubs. And actually, it does qualify here that you need 30 days worth of employment. So when I said 2 most recent, I kind of assumed that you get paid biweekly.
Correct. So like the month of May, we would have needed 3 pay stubs. And realistically, what we are looking for there is just proof of employment that you still are employed, still working where you said you were working at. And it kind of gives us that snapshot picture of how things are going for you for that year as well.
2 months worth of bank statements. I have learned the hard way. This is every bank, not just the print off the computer that says this is what I have in my account right now. It's actually 2 statements with their little logo at the top from every bank that you have a savings or a checking account in.
And Cheyenne, what's the big importance of that?
We're looking at that to make sure that you have enough reserves. So if something, 2 things. So if you're doing the down payment funds are there. And in addition, the underwriter is going to look to make sure that there's reserves so you are financially stable to make the home buying decision and go through the process.
And what exactly are reserves? We mentioned that a lot in our secondary market loans like FHA, rural development, and I know a lot of buyers do question, what is a reserve? You talk about it all the time.
So reserves are, for example, if today you lose your job, you still have enough money left in your account to make sure that the money is there to keep the bills going, and it's not going to put you in a severe financial difficulty until you can find your next job.
Perfect. Excellent.
So, I mean, the fact of the matter is, like, home ownership is the American dream, right? Not losing my house to the bank is the American
Correct.
dream.
Correct.
So what they're really trying to do is just make sure that you're sitting sound enough fiscally to be able to do those things and make good, sound financial decisions.
Correct.
So, driver's license and social security card, 2 forms of ID.
Well, we kind of need to verify who you are, is basically the gist of that. There's some other federal regs that come into play to do with terrorism and some other sort of things, but the main gist there is you are who you say you are.
Not one of 600,000 John Smiths?
Correct.
There you go. Okay.
Yes.
So the current mortgage statements.
Realistically, that has to do, if you're not a first-time home buyer, we're going to need to know those things. You may not be selling your home at that exact time. We might need to know that for debt-to-income ratio. Not every mortgage lender reports to the credit bureau. Shaina, can you interject on that? History on that?
It's kind of more like currently there's some loan programs where if you have a house that's in that loan program and you don't plan on selling that before purchasing a new one, it can deter you from being able to get the same one at the same time. So kind of that side of it. Also, if you're not currently a homeowner, if you can either get a copy of your lease or 12 months worth of canceled rent checks just to make sure that everything's getting paid on time.
I also know that I have run into, as a landlord, a lot more of my renters are paying in cash these days, so canceled checks aren't always all that easy to get. So I do know that a couple of the loans I've worked on just recently, they have accepted a letter from the landlord saying that rent has been paid on time.
Correct.
Cool. Proof of insurance. This one is always the stickler for everybody because they come to me with a binder half full. Well, they forget, but they come to me with a binder half full and they're like, "Oh my God, I don't know how to get that." I'm like, "Yeah, you have to make an offer first. You have to have a house first." Yeah. So
the big thing too, and this is what's great about Kelly's binder is all this stuff we ask for it, and people forget about insurance. It's like the last week and a half, and they're scrambling to get insurance quotes. And I get it. It's kind of, hey, I'm worried about getting this. I'm worried about getting an accepted offer. I'm worried about getting all this stuff to Cheyenne or John. I'm worried about what I got to buy for appliances, and you forget about the basic thing, homeowners insurance coverage, because we're going to need that in order to close the loan. It's just no if, and, or but about it. We need coverage on the house.
So the bottom two are kind of revert back up to the top again, but they're also things that don't apply to everybody, which is why we kind of put them down at the bottom. But statement from other current assets. I am willing to bet that this is going to go right back to the whole reserve conversation that we had earlier.
Yep.
401k statements,
401k,
IRAs.
retirement account, anything like that.
Yeah.
Pensions.
And that's because some of the loan programs are based on asset and then income.
Yep, correct.
And then address and employment history for the previous 2 years.
Correct. You may, or for example, Medford's prime example of this. We have Weather Shield and Sierra Pacific. You may work at Weather Shield for a year and then go work at Sierra Pacific, or vice versa. It's the same line of work. You're doing the same thing, but we need that 2 years of job history. So we're going to need that information from your previous employer. Just because you don't have 2 years with one specific employer does not mean you can't qualify for a loan.
So as a real estate agent, I'm going to actually do a free buyer consultation with you. We're going to sit down, we're going to discuss what you're looking for in a house, your wants, your needs, your things like that. And then from there, I'm actually going to talk about how you qualify for a loan, gathering all this information, going out and getting a pre-approval from a lender.
Yep.
And my goal is that every single one of my clients should take this completed binder right to the lender and have everything ready to go rolling along, which should actually allow us to close. Instead of being 45 to 60 days, we should be closer to 30 to 45 days because you don't have to wait for verification.
I would totally agree with that. And then one thing to remember is keep this fresh. I know Kelly probably knows as well as anybody right now, the inventory on housing is very low. So just because you came in for pre-approval, 3 months, maybe 4 months before they find something?
Right.
So if you keep updating this is going to help you out when you get that accepted offer, when you boom, 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 and we're off and running.
I'm going to tell you a little secret. So I actually keep one of these current with me all the time. Every time I get a New Year's taxes, I pull one out, I put it in, I put all of our pay stubs in, we do everything else, because when I decide to buy my husband a tractor for his birthday or something like that, we just bring the handy dandy binder to John and say, "Please get this done." So
it is a great tool. I really liked it. That's why we asked Kelly to come and share that with us today. So you guys, anything else to?
No, not that I can think of.
Excellent.
Have
That
fun
is,
hunting.
yeah, exactly. That's it for this Monday. We'll see you guys in the future, and thanks, Kelly, once again for coming on in.
My pleasure.
Thank you.